Hi everyone! So excited to have you here with us, and I'm so excited for this live stream. So hopefully you can see and hear me. If you can, maybe type in the chat and say hello. Let us know where you're joining from. And if you have any questions at any point, feel free to put them in the chat too, and we would love to answer them live as well. So as I mentioned in the uh, earlier today when I said hello to you guys and let you know that the live stream was happening. Uh, I'm working on a project with an amazing person called WotDogTV. Now, Nick came up with WotDogTV, and I'd like to bring Nick on to give us some information about WotDogTV and where it came from, why he decided to create it, and the mission of WotDogTV. And then we're going to focus on Wolfdogs today. And we've got Natalie from Watermill Wolves, and we're going to find out more about why she has Wolfdogs, what the Wolfdogs do, why are they so famous, and also you get to ask your questions about Wolfdogs and anything else you'd like to. So let's get started. I'm going to invite Nick to come on, and we will get going. Now, while we're doing that, hi to Kat, hi to Rachel, and everyone else joining us. Thank you for typing in the chat box. Looking forward to spending this next period of time with you. Hi, Nick. How are you?
Hello, Chirag. I'm very well, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can. I'm so excited we get to do this finally.
Yeah. It's been...
So Nick, do you want to introduce yourself and who you are, and tell us a little bit about why WotDog?
Why WotDog? Indeed. So yeah, my name's Nick, and I am a filmmaker, and I've been making various types of content and films over the years. And a few years ago, my mother was maybe getting a dog, and around that time, when we were kind of looking at different breeds, I was kind of looking on YouTube, and there was just so much content out there, and I didn't know what, we didn't know what to kind of, who was telling the right kind of information. And because I've been making that kind of content for a while, it made sense to kind of think about exploring creating a channel where we could get some training and behavior, some science-backed training and behavior, and then complement that with documentaries as well, which is what we're going to kind of be sharing today with Natalie's story.
Nice. And I love that you said there's so many different sources on the internet and everywhere you look about dog training, behavior, dog information in general. And so I love the fact that with your expertise and experience, and already, like, if you have a look at some of the videos on the site and like working with you, the amount of time and effort and energy that goes into looking at all the small details, like the sound and the images, and hours and hours and hours are spent on like putting these clips together. And I love the fact that your mission is kind of to help put this information out there free of charge to the public. That's such a high quality as well.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And because before this, I knew nothing about training and behavior. I knew how to make films, but before this, a lot of the content I saw was kind of quick fixes, that I didn't recognize were quick fixes. So to learn from your methodologies, Chirag, and your approach about positive reinforcement and understanding the psychology of the animal has been really enlightening. And we're quite excited about kind of bringing that to the channel and sharing that as a different approach.
Cool. So shall we? Oh, I did have one other question for you. So the name WotDog, where did that come from?
WotDogTV. Well, it was simply from seeing other breeds out there, and it's a play on when you ask someone what breed of dog have you got, so you say to someone, what dog is that?
I love it. And I love when you told me that as well. I was like, what dog is that? And I was like, such a genius idea, because so many people say you're in the park walking, they're like, wait, what breed is that? Or you see it, like, what dog is that? And part of the mission, and from WotDog's perspective, is to bring people lots of information, not only on behavior and training, but different breeds of dogs. And some of the early videos on the channel interview people about, why did you get this breed of dog? What kind of dog have you got? Can you tell us a little bit about that? So there's such a wide variety and spectrum of topics on the channel that I'm so excited that to be part of this project and all the information, all the work that we're doing with it as well. So you had the idea to look at the topic of wolf dogs, and do you want to explain why, or why that came about, how that came about?
Yeah, sure. So with the documentaries, there's another side to kind of dog parenting and caring for dogs, which is the experience of living with dogs. And as part of the channel, not only do we want to share the behavior and the training, but there's also the human element, and then there's also rare breeds and unusual breeds that you wouldn't usually see every day. And I was in London when I was developing this idea, and I came across a wolf dog, and it was just, huge, and kind of like, I was taken aback by this huge dog. And I spoke to the lady who owned it, and we had a lovely chat. And she pointed me to Natalie, to Watermill Wolves. And she said, "Oh, you should check out Natalie and her wolf pack, because they're acting dogs." And I thought that sounds really intriguing. So I went to her website and found Natalie, and then we went down for a recce, and we spent a day there, and we met the pack, and it was amazing. And I kind of knew then that it was really, we were in a really amazing kind of ranch that cared for these beautiful animals and had some amazing stories about this illustrious, famed acting pack of wolf dogs. And it kind of made sense to kind of focus our first sort of maiden voyage on a wolf dog, considering dogs like their ancestors are the wolves out there.
Cool. And so do you want to share a little bit of information about Natalie, who you just mentioned, before we invite Natalie to come on as well?
Yeah, I could. I think Natalie might do a better job of explaining her, about herself. But so she runs Watermill Wolves, and they are acting dogs, and she's also a behaviorist, and she does tons of other amazing things with her animals down there. So perhaps good time to bring her on.
Good session, Mr. Bond.
Hi, Natalie. Welcome.
Hello. Hi. So, yes, I'm Natalie. The wolfie with me is actually Moonshine. She won't stay here long because I'm running out of snacks. But you got that brief little look at her there. She'll probably go and settle down for a kip. They spend most of their time sleeping and relaxing, so she won't stay here long once the snacks are gone. So yeah, if you want a little brief intro of me, I'm a degree and master's qualified in animal behaviour first. I was one of those people that as a kid I was always sort of volunteering in rescue centres at the weekend, that sort of thing. And I really went down the wilder route, I guess you could call it. I have been a pet behaviour therapist for about 25 years. And about 20 of those years, I have owned wolf dogs in various contents, from what they call the low content animals, which are mostly dog percentage, then just a little bit of wolf. Right up to what I jokingly call virtual wolves, which are the animals that have got a very large amount of wolf percentage and just an itty bit of recent dog ancestry mixed in as well. And I've worked with wolves and all sorts as well. We work in several different areas. So the animal acting is obviously the fun and exciting side of what we do. But we also use that as a platform for our other work. So we actually have, we call them our education ambassador team. So they are ambassador wolf dogs, and their job is to go out there and teach people about nature and conservation, and also really about trying to dispel the big bad wolf myths that we've all heard, Little Red Riding Hood, Three Little Pigs, and also to provide animal assisted therapy to people out there, because the wolf dogs are actually really excellent ambassadors for therapy work. They're generally very peaceful and very zen, so that actually makes them great at various sort of animal therapy work. And so that's done under our non-profit group, which is called Project Wolfheart.
Wow, there's so much information there already, and I love how much you're doing with wolves. I have so many questions to ask you as well, but thank you for sharing that. And you seem like you have such a fascinating and interesting life, and so much experience as well. And I love the fact that you're also qualified in behavior and training, because that's my passion.
Me too.
So you mentioned the idea, like there's different percentages of wolf compared to dog within a wolf dog. How does that work? Like when you want a wolf dog, how do you get more wolf or less wolf, more dog, less dog? So yeah, how do you do that?
Yeah, well, I think this is actually a big issue when people are looking into wolf dogs, because quite frankly, a lot of people just come at it very naively with the idea of, I want something cool and wolfy looking. And then they sort of just stop there. And they have this idea, well, I'll get more wolf in it because that'll look more like a wolf, which is what I want. The thing is, wolf dogs is a very large group of animals, pseudo breeds, in that they're sort of all in development in various stages. So it's a bit like saying gun dogs. So a spaniel is obviously a gun dog, a Labrador is too, but they're going to behave in very, very different ways. Even within the retrievers, a flat coat retriever and a golden retriever, although they're both in a way relatively similar in their physique, are going to behave very, very differently. And the same is true of wolf dogs. So you really have to do your research into the different temperaments of the different types that are out there, because it's not just about percentage of wolf. You also have to look at, well, what dogs have been put into them and what are the breeding programs. One of the most common lower content wolf dog breeds is actually the Czechoslovakian wolf dog. And that was actually originally developed by the Czech military quite a long time ago now. So it's actually a very established breed. It's actually recognized by the European kennel clubs. But that was developed using working line shepherds for sort of border patrol work, and developed with those very specific purposes. So, excellent at tracking, but very independent, quite high energy because of the working drive. It's got a lot of the working drive shepherd. And I know a lot of the time when people own them and have them as pets, and then they're too boisterous and they're silly, the wolf percentage in them, although that's actually quite small, gets a lot of the blame. When in actual fact, it's the working shepherd. I always say the Czechoslovakian wolf dog is to wolf dogs what the Belgian Malinois is to shepherds. So not necessarily great if you live in a flat in London, unless you're actually prepared to put in a huge amount of work and effort into getting them out and about and stimulating them in the way that they should. So when it comes to wolf percentages, the first thing to bear in mind is that most wolf dogs come from a long line of breeding programs. There's very, very few, well, certainly nobody responsible around the world is catching endangered wild wolves and breeding them with dogs these days. It's just not happening. These are bloodlines. They can go back to the 1950s and earlier, and they've been developed along very, very specific ways. So you get the percentages very, very easily. You can imagine if you cross a wolf with a dog, that's half and half. You take that half and half wolf dog and you breed it with a dog, that's going to have puppies that's 3/4 dog and 1/4 wolf. Or you do it the other way, you breed that half and half back to a wolf, and you're going to get an animal that's obviously now 3/4 wolf and 1/4 dog. So then you create a population of those, and then they've bred them for long periods of time to make more established bloodlines.
it sounds so interesting in terms of how complex, because sometimes you think of it and you don't put all the thought in. Like, you've got so much experience, and like the detail you're describing of how you would go about even like recreating that. Why would you want more wolf or less wolf in that? I think that's so fascinating. And we've got a question that's actually come in. So Kashi has asked a question, which is, Natalie, in your experience, what percentage of wolf DNA in the wolf dog makes it more pliable to training?
So I actually think it's less about pliability. In many ways, if you have worked with some of the more primitive ancient breeds, you'll have a lot of understanding of wolves and wolf dogs. I've got a friend who's got Saluki, and I always joke that they're wolf light. So it's about knowing how to emotionally motivate them. They're not going to have the artificial excitement that we say breed into some of our working dogs, where you give them a ball and they go, oh wow, that's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life. So they haven't got these sort of artificial obsessions that we've bred into them. I think what it comes down to is you start increasing, certainly I would say once you start to get beyond 70% wolf, there are some really key significant differences that you're going to find. I think you're going to find issues with excitement and motivation, because actually wolves are pretty chill. You see all the drama on the documentaries and whatever, and the fiction shows. Even the documentaries that are trying to do a good job, they need to make exciting TV. So they follow this wolf pack all winter. They've seen a handful of drama here and there. They cram that all into their hours documentary and skip out the fact that 95% of the time they're all kipping and cuddling up together and just having a nice sleep somewhere. So that motivation, I would say wolves are very zen compared to dogs. They don't have that, oh, what are we doing now attitude. The other thing is there's a lot of studies that show they're more creatively, independently intelligent. So it's not that they're unwilling to follow your ideas, but it's just that they've got an awful lot of good ideas of their own. So you've got to be particularly interesting if you want to dissuade them from the interesting thing that they already had an idea about doing it. And I think then the other big issue that people really underestimate as you go up to significant levels of wolf is just how much of a pack family animal that is. And what I mean by that is they can be very loving and loyal and affectionate to their own family. So in many ways, very, very dog-like to the people and the animals that they live with. However, they've got very, very strong fear instincts when it comes to strangers. There's no vets in the wild. So you've got to be really careful and cautious when it comes to strangers. And fear, as any behaviorist knows, is a very strong and overriding instinct. And if you don't know how to manage and train fear, you're going to really struggle if you get a higher percentage, a higher content wolf dog. So that's the biggest issue I think you really have to bear in mind. One final thing I'll very quickly add is wolves have a different breeding routine to dogs. So dogs, your females can have puppies, a couple of times a year, maybe, and the males are fertile all the time. Wolves will have a winter breeding season. So when you're looking at the wolf dogs of a lot of wolf percentage, what that means is you might have an animal that gets very hormonal about Christmas time for a few months, and that's something that you have to factor in as well, and can make family politics a little bit more complicated.
Thank you, Kashi, for your question. And if anyone else does have questions, please put them in the chat box and we'll definitely have a look at them. I've got easy access to questions from people watching on Facebook and YouTube, not so much on Instagram, but if you are posting on Instagram, we'll try and get those questions answered too. Maybe Nick, if you don't mind, just having a look on Instagram while we're having a little chat and see if there are, that would be amazing. So Natalie, I got a couple of clips here from something you mentioned already, which was how close they are in terms of family animals. And so I thought I would just play a little clip. So in case someone hasn't seen the actual little documentary that Nick has created, here's a little excerpt from it. And then we can come back and discuss a little bit more, if that's okay.
Go for it.
They're obviously very close family animals, so they show a lot of love and loyalty, affection and respect for their family members. They can obviously be shy and withdrawn with strangers. We've done a lot of very careful training and socialising with our guys to make them more confident with strangers, but they really like to stick to their core family.
So that just showed a short clip of some of your beautiful wolf dogs, and also you mentioning about how they do like to stick with their core family. And you mentioned about socialization there as well, which I'd love to ask you a little bit more about. Before we do that, just picking up on a couple of things you mentioned already, which I thought were fantastic, is like you mentioned the idea about the individual dog and the individual like within the kind of breed, as you mentioned, like not all breeds are the same. They may look similar, but also even within breeds, like you get 5 Labradors and you're probably going to have 5 different personalities or characteristics. Like my brother's born from the same mum and dad, but we're very different people. And based on not just our genetics, but also our learning histories, our day-to-day interaction with the world and how that shapes us. Do you find that similar to a litter of wolf dogs as well?
Very much so. I find that they really have very individual and unique personalities. And even within the breeds that are being developed, you have to remember that that's a relatively short period of time. If you think how different a litter of Labradors can be, and we've been breeding them for conformity for quite a long time, you know, a few centuries, really. So you can imagine in these animals, you do get a lot of variety in personality. And if you think about that in the wild, that would actually be really important. You think about a human team as well. You need different personalities and characters to make a good team. It'd be no good if everybody was absolutely identical. You need the ones that are really, you know, creative and exploratory. You need the ones who are more cautious. You need the ones who are happy to tag along. You need the peacemakers. So you need a wonderful sort of melting pot of personalities to make a successful team, to make a successful pack. So, I mean, I've got, for example, Moonshine that you saw right at the beginning there. She's the softest, sweetest, most quiet, gentle girl. She's actually still very young. Her mother, who's just had her 7th birthday today, is still doing zoomies like a 1-year-old.
Oh, happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Alice. She's fast asleep on the sofa now. She went out for birthday lunch earlier. So,
Oh, what did she have?
we went up to, there's a local walk around here and they've got a little cafe and you can get little puppuccinos and things like that.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
She likes her creature comforts. Yeah.
You actually, I've got a clip of you walking with your dogs, your wolf dogs outside. So I showed that, but I think Nick, you experienced it firsthand when you were filming Natalie out with her wolf dogs walking. Did you see that?
Yeah, well, when we went down to the beach, and it's quite a sight because the dogs are huge. So, you know, alongside other dogs that we passed, it was quite something.
And how was that? Like, as in, I just think it's surreal to see such a beautiful big animal, potentially as well, something different to your everyday dog, just going on a lead, walking. How was that experience for you? Like, have you seen many wolf dogs walking in the street or out on the beach?
Since then, no, other than visits to crufts and other things, maybe 1 or 2. But yeah, no, it's the reason why you know, we're bringing these. You know, we're making these documentaries on these kind of majestic animals that, you know, you wouldn't otherwise see, because there's a lot of good story to be told and shared.
No, definitely. Let's take a look at some of the footage, another short piece of clip just of some of the walkings. I thought that was a beautiful piece of clip as well.
It's always interesting when I'm out with the wolfies, you get a lot of reactions. All the kids obviously go, wow, that's a wolf. Normally their parents correct them and say, no, it's a husky or a German shepherd. And I like to tell the children they're partly right. And also the parents are partly right. They mean the world to me, of course they do. They're family, ultimately. I wake up wolf dogs. Through the day, wolf dogs. Go to bed, wolf dogs. It's definitely a bit of a passion. I'm definitely the crazy wolf lady.
Natalie, you might be the crazy wolf lady, but I just watching the film, I love your personality and the way you say things. I love the bit in the video where you said, "Oh, I love to tell the people, the children, they're partly right, the adults, they're partly right." I love the looking for the success, because I think as behaviorists, that's one of the things we focus on is look for the positives, look for the success, things that are going well. And I love how you phrase that. So beautiful.
Well, I could tell them that they're both wrong, I suppose, and it's better to take the more positive approach. I think the thing is, if you have these guys, anytime you're out, whether you want to be or not, you're an ambassador for wolves, because people are going to draw conclusions. So I take it as quite a heavy responsibility. You know, every time I'm in public, people are learning something or drawing some conclusion or making some assumption about wolves and wolf dogs. So it's my duty to try and make sure that I present them in the most responsible and accurate way possible, really.
Nice. I think that's amazing. And I think it's true for any breed, because if we look at anyone who might have any kind of dog, you often hear people in the park say, "Oh, Staffies or Rotties, they're dangerous." And I love Staffies and Rotties. And I think they're such adorable, affectionate dogs. And I think when we have those, we have any dog or any animal, we do have a responsibility to that individual that we're caring for, because they don't really have a choice to live with us. But we also have a responsibility to the wider, people around us. As we have these animals, how can we keep people safe and everything like that, but also to the breed. And we're almost ambassadors for our dog, but dogs in general. So as caregivers of dogs, we should be thinking about our job as responsible ambassadors, as well as doggy parents, I think, when we have any animal. So you mentioned a few things in terms of with the we talked about positivity and focusing on the positive side. Now, when you're working with your wolf dogs and you're doing training, what kind of techniques are you focusing on? Are you focusing on more positive techniques? So how do you work with your wolf dogs?
So this is where the A word rears its ugly head, and this is something I have to dispel very, very regularly. Forget be the alpha, okay? And yes. Any behavioural scientist knows the alpha is a load of hooey, and we now know an awful lot more about wolves. People often say, well, you know, dogs aren't like wolves. I emphasize that less, because actually I focus a lot on the similarities. It's more for me that dogs are not like what people think wolves are. When people actually get to know wolves, they realize there's no alpha in the wolf pack. What you're looking at is a family. It's a family unit. There is some authority. You have the parents who have authority. As any parent will tell you, that authority is rather tenuous, and it's based a lot on affection and indulgence. So, for example, we've got a new young addition who's joined the pack here, Sunshine, and she is a master manipulator. She's only about 4.5 months old, and she can divest chews and treats and snacks of the majority of the adults, and they'll just let her do at that age as she pleases. They'll pretty much they'll actually literally give up the food from their stomach. She can give them a good lick and chase them around, and she can actually make them sick up their dinner. So it's a family unit. And certainly one of the things that I find, and I think this is probably due to the strong fear instincts in them as well, they respond very negatively to harsh training techniques. If you do get away with it when they're young, and I see lots of people that try when they're young, it comes back to bite you in the backside, literally, as they become adults and their full adult hormones arrive. I always say you have until about 3 years old to become their friend. And if you haven't really developed that bond, that friendship, that trust, that loyalty, you absolutely cannot force it in an adult dog, a wolf dog and a wolf. It just will not happen. So everything is about building a relationship, You can talk about the specifics, so working on your motivation, your drives, building your associative learning between actions that you want and various rewards and whatever. But on a grander scheme, sort of holistically looking at the whole animal, it's about developing a friendship, a relationship, a rapport, and you have to listen to them at least as much, probably an awful lot more than you ever want and hope that they will listen to you. So it's never going to work as a dictatorship. It's a friendship. They want to have equal rights in the household with you, and they don't want to be dictated to. You know, I always say, if you want something that's going to be obedient, if you've got designs on, you know, doing rigidly well in competition where the animal performs very consistently every single time, these are absolutely not the animals for you.
And I think that's true for all dogs. Is sometimes we expect them to be robots sometimes, and we're like, do as I tell you. And that I love the fact that you said dismissing the A word, and because it's such a big thing. I work with wolves as well, and wolf dogs, and one of the big things people think is we don't go in and treat wolves like I'm the alpha because I'll eat you or something, and they won't necessarily eat you, but it's like if you provide conflict, then there's going to be conflict back. And when you watch wolves, I remember I had a chance to spend some time at Wolf Park in Indiana and consulting and working with while they were raising a litter of wolf pups. And I remember when one day they brought one of the aunt dogs in with the youngsters, and the aunt came in and the youngsters were being a little bit annoying, like you said, like a family. The youngsters were jumping on her and nibbling her, and so she stood up and she moved to a spot, and they just ran after her, started nibbling her more. And what she did as an adult wolf was jump up onto a platform which was higher than where the puppies were, and sat there for a few minutes. And then when the puppies had calmed down and they were sitting down, she came back down and joined them. And her education was simple, kind, and effective. And there was no screaming, no dominance, no aversive punishment. It was so cool to see that. And I think, like you said, it's so misunderstood that you have to be almost violent or aggressive to these animals, and you really don't. So I love the fact that you describe it as a family unit as well.
Very much so. And as I said, the level of indulgence is incredible. You know, I've got my my big teenage boy, Dr. Jones, who's fast asleep beside me on the sofa here. I don't know, are you awake there at all? No, he's fast asleep on his back with his legs in the air.
Are you able to move your camera so we can see?
Let me see. You can see his feet.
Oh.
There we go. Oh, it's a hard life, isn't it, boyo? So he loves playing with the puppy, and you see she's this little thing. She'll leap on him in this dive bomb, and you just see him go, "Oh, you got me!" and he's just, you know, so indulgent of her. It's absolutely, you know, beautiful to see, and that affection there is very, very poignant. It really is.
Oh, that's so amazing. I love the fact he's lying just on it, like the rest of the world. Cool. So, yeah, and I think we've got another question coming from Rachel. So I'll put that up as well. So Rachel is asking, is fear trainable or more a management so they can become more comfortable around people when I do the right thing?
I don't know where my...
We've lost your camera, Natalie. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't actually know why we've lost my camera. Maybe it's just that my signal is bad here.
Okay.
Can you hear me still? As long as you can hear me for now.
Hear you, yeah.
I guess that's the main thing.
Yeah.
So as far as the fear being trainable, what I would say, let's see if I can click this camera back on again. No, it doesn't seem to want to come on. No, it's not happy. Okay, well, anyway, as far as the fear is concerned, half and half, I think, is really the answer to that one. So you have to work with the animal that you've got. I think there's no waving a magic wand. You're not going to, make them into a Labrador. That's absolutely not going to happen. You can generally always improve upon where they are. I think is the key thing, but they very much will develop in their own time. When it comes to how far you're going to get, I have, at the moment, for example, I have 8 permanent residents. 6 of those are really do any ambassador work. So there's 2 that just absolutely don't want to, and that's fine, and I respect that. And they are just lords of ladies of leisure in the countryside. And out of the 6 that do, 2 of those are very happy to go into very busy places and are happy to be around people and loud and noisy environments, but they don't want those strangers to touch them. They're not going to be dangerous. They're just going to pull away. And if you pushed the issue, they'd probably end up pooing. And I would never obviously push the issue because I don't want that to happen. So I think you have to respect the level that they're at, really. I keep trying to enable the camera, but it is not allowing it.
No worries. We can hear you fine. So, and if you want to like jump out of the call and then jump back in, you're more than welcome to do that too. If you think that might work, you're welcome to try that. And then in terms of, I think, Natalie, I loved your answer again about Rachel's question in terms of is fear trainable? And so from my perspective as well, I think what's really interesting is often Natalie said, there's going to be your genetic component and your learning components. And so you may not be able to change your genetic component, but I love that Natalie said, work with the animal in front of you. And I think sometimes we can end up going, oh, my animal is a fearful one because of their breeding, but then we forget about the learning aspect of it as well. So I think it's always cool to kind of watch for the learner in front of us, and we can't change the genetics, but we can change learning experiences and use learning to build up a repertoire of behaviors that can be useful for the animal to be more what we might label as confident rather than nervous or fearful. And so sometimes it's by operationally defining what do we mean by fear. So when a child comes by or there's a loud noise, my animal will try to back away or run under a table. And then asking the question, like Dr. Susan Friedman says, WTF, what's the function? Why does my dog run away and hide under the table? Because it could be that they're getting away from something. So could I use that as part of my animal's education and teach them, rather than panicking to get away? You can do something like just look at me or show me a small sign like the tail tucked, and before you start panicking, I help you go to the car or I help you move away from that child. And that way we can start to teach them to be more confident, because they start to go, oh, you read my body language, you read my subtle cues, and I can actually get the outcome that I'm looking for. So I think it's a really interesting question, Rachel, in terms of is fear trainable? And I love that you got to hear Natalie's perspective as well. And I love her perspective. And I think like having that option to remember that learning is always happening, it gives us those options to be able to teach and educate as well as we go forward. We've got another question here, I think, or a comment. So we've got one from Melanie. So Melanie says, interestingly, in Norse mythology, Odin told the race of man to look to the wolves. They were told to learn from them and remember a pack runs together and cares for their own. I love that. I don't know, Natalie, if you have any comments there or thoughts.
You tend to find, actually, it's quite interesting when you look at how the wolf has been viewed throughout history. Most of the bad wolf tales come from very strongly agricultural times. So Little Red Riding Hood, Three Little Pigs. And that's really about the tribal side of humanity in many ways. So as soon as you start fencing off certain prey animals and deciding you have ownership of them, the wolf becomes your competitor. And just as humans are very competitive, one tribe to another, and this is something we still struggle with in our instincts to this day, they very much reacted that way to wolf populations. And really, if you're a competitor with something and they're your rival tribe, you have to vilify them, because that's how you justify killing them and being mean to them. And it's a pattern you see throughout human history. And it's worked very, very successfully against wolves. But actually, if you look at a lot of older cultures who come from hunter-gatherer, and although certainly if you look at, say, Native American Indian, but even when you look at actually a lot of the Old Norse, a lot of those Old Norse and Viking tales, if you like, they almost predate a lot of the farming and the more modern Viking era that actually ended up becoming Christian Norse era. So actually, a lot of the stories are actually very, very ancient, and have their roots probably a lot further back. So again, you find that the wolf is often in these situations seen as a guide and a guardian. And that very much ties into the natural role that wolves play for humans living in a natural environment in a more hunter-gatherer life. Animals are your guide. You watch them. The ravens are settling down early in their nests. Oh, it's probably going to be a bad night. The wolves are all trekking off over the hill. Oh, maybe there's something of interest over there. Maybe there's a big herd or something that we could hunt too. So they're your guides in that sense. And then also, of course, what you look at doing is they become your guardians. And this is actually how the wolf self-domesticated, because, of course, the dog really is man's best friend. We didn't catch and keep him. He chose to live with us. And that happened around our kill sites. The wolves would come and hover around us, and they're not going to be any threat whatsoever to a human hunting party. But what they're going to do is they're going to hang around, and they'll let us know if that cave bear is coming or something bigger and scarier. So what you find in that situation is they naturally become our guardians. And obviously you're going to form a friendship with these animals that are keeping you safe while you get your sleep after a day's hunting. You're going to throw them some bones to keep them hanging around. You might throw them a bit of meat as thanks if they help you chase off an angry bear. And so that friendship naturally developed from there, and eventually, of course, became the domesticated dog. So, yeah, if you go further back in cultures, they're seen in a much more positive light.
Thank you. And I love how you create the history as well, and how it's so important. Sometimes we hear myths or we hear things and we don't ask the question, where did it come from? We sometimes just say, oh, okay, that's the truth. But when you look back at history and you go, oh, it could be to do with, like you said, with wolves and farmers and things are happening and the stories get created. And then sometimes it becomes almost fact, like, oh, wolves are really bad animals or things like that. And so sometimes going back in time and going, wait, where did this actually start? And we can learn so many interesting things when we do that. Nick, have you found any questions for us yet? Have you seen any questions come in?
There's my mic on there. There is one today, actually, on the documentary that's on YouTube. Somebody asked, what are the next productions, or are there any shows that they might be featuring? Have they been out acting lately, Natalie?
Well, we're never allowed to say what's up and coming, because it's a bit of a plot giveaway that, oh, there's wolves in it. But one of the most recent things that we've been out in is actually a movie called Lift that's out at the moment on Netflix. And that's a Kevin Hart movie. It's actually a plane heist. It seems a funny place for some wolves. But James Bond, our main acting boy here, he does make an appearance in that. He's the pet wolfie of the baddie in that one, so has a lovely time in the baddie's mansion.
And where else are you able to tell us some of the other places that your wolf dogs have appeared?
They do all kinds of things. So a lot of it is the things you might expect, like Vikings and Dracula, Penny Dreadful, like the scary stuff, if you like. But we also do a lot more fun things. They've been in I'm a Celebrity. James Bond was a ring bearer in Don't Tell the Bride. Wolfie weddings are quite the growing thing these days. I think having, an owl, ring bearer, or doves is sort of, rather last season, and these are seen as a little bit more interesting. Music videos, that sort of thing. They did a beautiful video with Rag and Bone Man and Pink. That was a lovely collab that they did. So yeah, all sorts of things from the horrific to the really very, very silly.
I love the fact that they collab as well. That's so amazing. You must have such an interesting life as well. Being part of all this, and I imagine it takes a lot of training and teaching to help the wolf dogs be prepared for all of their auditions or their live acting scenes.
Well, I think because people often come to me, I really want my animal to get into acting and they can do this trick and that trick. Well, obviously, you as a trainer know that actually teaching tricks, so-called tricks, is actually relatively easy. The hard part is developing their trust and their confidence and their temperament so that they can walk into very strange environments with unusual things happening and feel relaxed and confident and comfortable. I always say, really, a good test is, can you take your dog somewhere incredibly loud and busy, maybe say like a train station or something like that, and have them relax and go to sleep for a bit? And then feel comfortable whenever you saying, okay, let's have some fun and do some training now and focus on me no matter what's going on. Because that's really the key test. They've got to go into that busy environment. They can't be stressed and frazzled and upset. They need to know, okay, you've got to relax, because when they call you, they call you. So there's no point wasting energy at the side. You've got to be totally chill no matter what's going on. And then when you're called, that's that. Come on, wake up. Let's have a little bit of fun. And they've got to be completely comfortable and okay with that. So the tricks really not a problem, but the preparing them for the lifestyle and the environment, we always say it's really that they're maybe 3 or 4 years old before they're prepared and ready to take a role independently without being part of a pack, sort of having their family around them for moral support.
I love that. I haven't met you yet in person, but I just love your philosophy and what you're saying so much in terms of even working with companion dogs or pet dogs. Is sometimes we don't even think about that in terms of say you get a young dog and you go, I want my dog to be an assistance dog, or I want my dog to be a therapy dog or a support dog or this, that, and the other, or even go out and do tasks. I think living for a dog in the human world is a big challenge.
Absolutely.
To places where they have to deal with a lot. And I think I love the fact that you said you wait for your dogs, your wolf dogs, to be ready, and it may be when they're 3 or 4, and they have the support of their family when they're younger. And I think that's how we should think about our relationship with dogs, is when we take our dog out, we think of it as, how do we support them? Are they ready for the task we're asking them for? And it may not necessarily be just they have to be 2 or 3, but it could be, have they had the sufficient experiences to prepare them to be comfortable and relaxed? And you mentioned being comfortable at the train station, not just take them to a train station and make them deal with it. So
Absolutely.
I love that idea. So I love what you're saying, and I really appreciate that so much. So a lot of people are asking, actually, mentioning there's questions coming in. Are there going to also be more episodes coming out about wolf dogs and things like that? So maybe that's a good question to ask Nick and yourself.
It would be great, actually, because you've not met in person. I think it would probably be great if Natalie, if we could come down with Chirag and probably meet the pack and get some great content then.
I think that would be brilliant. I was just about to offer you an invite anyway. So.
Oh!
That's amazing.
I am there, Natalie. I'm getting in my car and I'll see you in a minute.
I'll put the kettle on.
Thank you. Nick, I think that's an amazing idea. So definitely watch this space, is what we're saying. Is if you're not subscribed to WotDogTV, I would ask you to head over to WotDogTV on YouTube at the end and hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, the little bell sign, because as soon as there's a new video, you'll get a pop-up saying new video, and you'll be able to see all the amazing stuff from Natalie and the dogs, if we'll be doing more episodes there, and also other exciting things coming out that I know is in the back burner. Now, I'd like to move. Oh, actually, before we do that, there's another comment here which I saw. I thought would be really cool to highlight. Let's find that comment. So Janet says, such a wonderful explanation of domestication of dogs and how wolves invited themselves into our life. So thank you so much for that, Natalie. It makes me want to rewrite so many shows. Also, I now want a wolf on my couch.
Not if you value your couch.
And I know Janice is probably joking here when she says this, but I would say the same thing, Janice. I'd be like, oh my God, now I want a wolf dog on my couch. But speaking more seriously here, and I think this is a really, really cool point. So Janice, I'm really grateful that you actually bring this up, is I know when there's TV shows, like really popular movies, and they have certain types of dogs, whether it's huskies or wolf dogs or owl in them, everyone wants an owl, or everyone wants a wolf dog. And we often see this trend in terms of rescue centers, where sometimes you see that a lot of these people get these breeds, then they may not have the best environment to care for them or knowledge, and they end up in rescue centers. So what are your thoughts, Natalie, in terms of for people out there who see wolf dogs, either when they're walking on TV shows in different places and go, oh my God, they're so cute, they're amazing, I want one, I should definitely have two. What would you say?
So popularity for anything is a double-edged sword, because the fact is, when things become popular, there are people that jump in on a whim, and there are people who will exploit popularity trends. So there was actually a big jump in the puppy farming of wolf lookalike dogs and wolf dogs following Game of Thrones. People don't tend to think that these guys can be puppy farmed, but just like any other animal, they can absolutely, unfortunately, be open to exploitation by people. And of course, not only those puppy farms, as you know, sad and cruel environments for the animals, but they're not necessarily picking the best animals to breed from. They could have temperamental or physical issues, and they're certainly not putting care and concern into where they're going. So they're quite happy to sell to inappropriate, thoughtless homes with people who haven't really put any sort of thought or effort in. They've just sort of waved some cash at that puppy farmer. These guys will absolutely take over your life. They want to be an important starring role in your life. They're not happy to be your sidekick. They will never just be your tag-along sidekick. That's not the way it goes. You're going to be catering your life to them much more than you're asking them to fit in with your life and your lifestyle. And I have nothing against people wanting to keep these animals as companions who have really done their research. They've gone and got involved. They've not just seen them. They've had to go at practically handling them. We actually run Wolf Dog 101 courses here for people who are considering ownership. So you can actually come here and practically have a go at handling them, see what they're like in the flesh. Because, well, like you say, you met a wonderful one in London, and you can meet my guys out and about, and you just see that one little rosy microcosm. Oh, it's fantastic. It was amazing. And I did get to pet that one and whatever. And you have no idea the sort of blood, sweat and tears that's gone into it behind the scenes. So I think it's really important that you spend a lot of time making sure it's the right thing for you. And least of all, because I think out of all the breeds I've worked with, these guys suffer the most if you can't keep them. I have seen them come into rescue, because we do rescue and rehoming here. And I've seen some of them come into rescue, and that sense of abandonment they feel when their pack gives them up is absolute. And some of them never recover. Some of them will never go near another person ever again. They will live their life isolated and alone, never able to fully trust anybody ever again. You can absolutely soul destroy one of these animals, certainly the higher content animals, if you get yourself in over your head and realize it's not for you. So it's not just, are you in the position to do this now? Do you have the experience? Do you have the facilities? Do you have the time and the commitment and the energy? but are you in a stable enough position that you can provide that for the next 15 years? Because you will absolutely destroy a life of a very sentient being if you cannot commit to that animal for life.
Wow, and it's such a powerful way you say that, and I think it's so true. And you're so good at the way you share that. I love the fact that you also really point out the idea that these are sentient creatures, beings that we share our life with, and I think it is such a huge responsibility with any animal. And I think that we have to remember that sometimes when we're young, we're brought up as animals are those things that we keep or we own, and even changing that word to like being WotDogTV, we talk about being caregivers, because it's almost like rather than ownership from a legal perspective, we're caring for this individual who doesn't have a choice to come live with us, and we have a responsibility of care, whether that's the social responsibility, the medical responsibility, the mental and ethical well-being. So I love that you bring all these points up, and I think it's so important. And I remember, like, when I work in the zoo world as well, and one of the big topics that have come up is when you care for animals of certain species, like elephants, it could be dolphins, it could be other species that do build social bonds and close social bonds, is what's the ethics of kind of thinking about who cares for them? Like if you have a high turnover of zookeepers and these animals are becoming attached and forming bonds and attachments to certain individuals, then we have an ethical responsibility to think about all these different things when we care for them. And I think the same with our pets at home is when we have these animals who live as families, family units, thinking about, okay, if I take on a dog, maybe it's going to be the next 12 years or 15, 16 years. And there are always life circumstances which we can't predict, and things will happen. And we can help find dogs homes and things like that, and do that in ways that can be as least stressful as possible. But it's something we want to definitely keep in mind, is to try and really think about how can we, what responsibilities do we have to the social attachments? I think that's a really nice point as well.
Well, I think it's important to bear in mind, again, where dogs came from. And I really do like to think of it as a pact we formed at the beginning. As I said, we didn't catch and keep them, and we didn't start selectively breeding them till many, many tens of thousands of years later when we started to do agriculture. It was an entirely voluntary relationship in the early days. And I think that's something that we have no right to take away from them. I know some people don't like it, but I quite like the concept of doggy parents. And because I think in many ways that is the role that we fulfill for them. Like you say, we have responsibility over them. We understand the world that they're in better than they do. So we have to help them navigate it safely. In many ways, we've taken that role of their parents. We take them when they're very young. We control their routines in the same way that a child is controlled and has their day and routine sort of decided by their parents. And I think we have an absolute responsibility to make sure that we're doing that in their best interest, and taking their own thoughts and feelings on the matter into consideration. This isn't a dictatorship. We have no intrinsic rights of ownership over them. And with their sentience and their self-will and desires, we have to take that very, very seriously and very respectfully.
No, thank you. And I think that's so true. And I love the fact that you also offer the experiences about Watermill Wolves, where people can come and do you say it's a workshop or a day, an experience where they can really learn?
I mean, we actually run a sort of variety of different workshops here. So the Wolfdogs 101 is a private experience that's designed for potentially new owners. So that's a real fact-finding one, and you'll have your sort of handling skills tested, that sort of thing. We then have sort of the more fun side, so just like walk the wild side experiences, that sort of thing. And anybody can come along and book in for those, and that's more to just meet them, get a little bit time to know them, have a little bit of a fuss and a cuddle with the more affectionate ones, go for a stroll in the woods with them, that sort of thing. So yeah, we have a range of experiences for different people wanting different things.
Cool, and I've put your website up here as well, so people can see where they can find out more information about Watermill Wolves, and if they're interested in coming and meeting you or your pack, they can maybe get in touch. So if you want to find out more, do definitely check out watermillwolves.co.uk. I would highly recommend it.
Yeah, brilliant. And also, I should just point out that if there happen to be any random philanthropic millionaires listening in, our Project Wolfheart Conservation and Rescue Centre is looking for well, a millionaire. It would be very nice right now. So hit me up.
Hit me up too, please. The single, all the better. So perfect. And so you mentioned your rescue project. What could you give us a bit more information about that? Is that to help? How does that work? Like, you just yeah.
So it's actually a little bit of everything. So on the Wolfdog side, it's about rescuing, rehabilitating, rehoming, and also just providing support for owners who are out of their depth, so they can contact us and we can give them help and advice. And if they need rehoming, then we will help with that as well, wherever possible. We would like to expand so we can provide more long-term sanctuary. As I said, some of them that we rescue are deeply, deeply traumatized. And they don't want to go back into any kind of home environment. And they really need proper sanctuary space where they can have very enriched natural lives. I've got a wonderful network of people that I've worked with in the past, of wolfie sort of lovers and responsible owners. But quite frankly, we're full now. And it's really getting to the point where we need a dedicated larger sanctuary. And so what we want to do is we're developing our non-profit now, which is Project Wolfheart, which is actually going to combine a wolfie sanctuary with a bit of a conservation centre and a human wellness and well-being centre. So we firmly believe that the needs of nature and humanity do not have to be at odds with each other, but that actually we work best as humans and dogs in a symbiotic, collaborative relationship. So we really want to showcase that with our new centre, where we'll be combining all of our animal-assisted therapy. We work with everything from traumatised children to war veterans, people with special needs. And we want to really wrap that all in with nature therapy and wellbeing therapy, and combine that with our rescue of wolves and wolf dogs and other wild animals that are in need. People don't realise in a country like the UK just how large the exotic pet trade is, even the illegal exotic pet trade in wild animals. I got involved in a rescue a few years back of a pure wild wolf puppy that was dumped on the streets. So someone had got this wild animal and had been illegally obtained from the wild. Someone had realised they were out of their depth. Obviously, you can't just walk that into the RSPCA and admit you've done a crime. So they just dumped it on the streets. And so that animal is now in a dedicated sanctuary, obviously. But people are shocked to find out that that's actually not an unusual occurrence in the UK.
Wow, it's yeah, I would be shocked as well. I don't, Nick, what you think is like, I wasn't expecting that you'd like have people dumping wolf puppies in the UK.
No. Yeah, the first I've heard about that. It's really sad to hear. And actually, what Natalie was talking about and what you followed up with there with Chirag, it goes to the ethos of what WotDog is about. WotDogTV is about, is to kind of educate and make sure that if someone's considering getting a dog, that they've got the ability to look after the dog for its entire life. Because we saw in the lockdown, millions of people got dogs because they were at home a lot more. And then as the lockdown was opening up, the rehoming centres were absolutely busy with dogs that unfortunately were not had the parents to look after them.
Definitely, and I think that is such a I think that's one of the things, that reason why I think I love your idea of why you created WotDog and the mission statement and the purpose of it and the education and helping people have access. And I think we welcome people to, if you have customers or people who are interested, if you have someone who's like, oh, I want to know more about Wolfdogs, feel free to share the resources from WotDogTV on our YouTube channel. You can share the links and people can go and watch those. There's also training videos on puppy training, on a few different breeds, understanding those breeds. So please do feel free to share with your customers or friends and family these video links, because our goal is to try and disseminate as much information freely as possible and help animals stay within homes and have the best possible lives. And I love what Natalie said there about the human-animal relationship, but also the idea of your goal with the rescue is to have a space for people and be able to kind of look at our place within nature and with wolves as well. And I think that's so beautiful and so amazing, Natalie. So I love that. I think it's such a wonderful idea.
We spend so much time these days almost separating ourselves from nature and the natural world. We talk about how difficult it is for our dogs, but we often forget how difficult it is for us. We're living in a very artificial world with very artificial pressures. And you see that in the mental health crisis that's going on in the world today, with how many people really struggle. And we forget that we are a part of this natural world, this environment, this planet that we live in. And I think reconnecting with that is a very, very powerful tool for grounding people. And certainly when you're looking at wolves, they are such sensory creatures. They're so mindful, if you like. They're very observant and focused in the moment and the here and now and what is happening about them, that they really help bring people back into themselves and into that living moment that we often all forget that we're in when we've got all these worries inside in our heads. Can I just quickly draw attention to that question, because actually it's a very, very important one. Can wolf dogs live on their own?
Yeah, sure.
The vast majority of wolf dogs I've seen that live on their own have extreme separation anxiety when you go out. So, and it's really not advisable to have them on their own. It can create some very difficult problems. If they don't have extreme separation anxiety, you tend to find they're extremely overexcited when they do see canines in public. I'm quite happy to tow you under a bus to see a dog on the other side of the road. So I find it's really in their best interest to have another canine companion. Doesn't have to be another wolf dog. In fact, I often think it's quite nice to have another dog of a different breed that's a nice, well-rounded role model that you can have first. Not a good idea if it's a Chihuahua. It's not going to be much of a playmate. So you have, obviously size, power, and athleticism considerations to bear in mind. But I often think, a large dog of another breed that's well socialized and well-rounded, that's going to be a really good role model when you're embarking on your wolfie adventure.
I think that's thank you for sharing that. And some of the things you mentioned really resonate in terms of I just shout out to I'm wearing a hoodie from I don't know if you've heard of it. It's called Lagstrom, and it's a park in Norway. And I was there a couple of maybe about 8 weeks ago. And like you mentioned, they have a story. I think it's a public story where they have some wolves, and one of the previous litters, they found that when they went to take the wolf puppy to give like a microchip and injections as required by the law, there was a big injury on one of the wolf puppies, and they had to decide what to do. And they decided to hand raise this wolf puppy at that point, and give him the medical treatment he needed. And they're looking at ways to integrate him into a group now, and they've got some new puppies they're going to hopefully try to create a family group for him with. But when I was there, some of the cool things I saw as well, which was like the idea where you said bringing people back to nature, that's one of the big philosophies. And what I was really impressed by is they had these camps where you can sign up to, where you go and in the mornings you wake up and you milk the goats, and then you go out and they do bits about teaching you where to forage, and also be around in nature, meet the moose that they have, and like the wolves and all these different things. And so it was a real surreal cool experience. And I think where you mentioned like for the people's mental welfare needs as well, I think these kinds of things can be so great, and it goes to show how like it's not just about the dog or the animal. We're animals too, so it's that human-animal relationship, and so important.
Well, I think, and this is true for dogs as well as humans. You know, knowing and feeling are two different things. I mean, as behaviourists, how often do we hear, you know, oh, my dog knows he should be doing this or shouldn't be doing this or whatever, but he chooses not to. And the owners haven't taken into consideration how the animal is feeling, what instincts are there, what drives are there, what might be overriding any sort of random learning that we put in. And I think the same is very much true of humans. And if humans struggle with that, you know, we need to have certainly some empathy for dogs that struggle in those kind of situations. So we know, for example, now that the natural world is in trouble. We're not going to survive if there's a huge environmental catastrophe. So we have to start taking better care of our planets. We know we should be recycling. We know we should be getting involved in conservation work and whatever. But actually, a lot of us do it on a rather half-hearted level on a daily basis. And that's because knowing and feeling are very different things. It's very hard to maintain long-term motivation for something unless you've got an emotional connection for it. Emotions have evolved to give us motivation to do stuff. So in a way, if we're going to do something to help the natural world, we have to feel something. We have to feel connected to it. And I think this is where wolves are this incredible bridge between humanity and the natural world. They can really help connect people again with those roots that we've lost, and they can inspire emotions and emotional responses when thinking about nature and the natural world that hopefully then motivate us to try and make real change in the world.
Yeah, I very relate to that a lot, and I think it's a controversial topic. I was like, should I mention it or not when you're talking? You kind of got me thinking. But I think I'm gonna say it's like I consult in like zoos and wildlife work as well, in aquariums, where people keep like say dolphins, manatees, different animals. And I remember spending some time with a company that does have dolphins and manatees under human care, and the manatees came to them as rescue animals, and they bred extensively since then. And I remember just when I was spending time with that group. An experience where people go in and they can go meet the manatees, and I think there's complex questions about wild animals under human care and all these different things. So if you have different beliefs, that's completely okay as well if you're listening to this. But the point here for me, which was powerful, was when we do have wild animals under human care, or any animal under human care, even like a pet dog or rabbit or guinea pig, I think we have a responsibility, like we said, to care for that individual and meet their needs. But part of that is also sometimes when people get to meet these animals. So if you get to go and meet a manatee, you suddenly go, oh my God, that was such a surreal experience. And actually, oh, I didn't realize that so many boats run them over. Or if I'm driving my boat and I live in Florida and I have to be careful and go at slower speeds so I don't harm these animals. And there used to be people come up and they're like, what are those things? Those weird looking at crocodiles in the water. And then they go in, they meet them, and they come back out, and they're smiling, they're joyful, they're happy, and they're just like, oh my God, I love manatees now. And potentially it sparks this interest of caring and compassion and potential looking after wildlife more afterwards. So I do think there's a very valid area here as well. It's like when we have wolves, and they are happy to be around people, that can actually help in terms of they get better vet care. You can recognize if they're sick or injured, help treat them with less stress. And then also people meeting them might actually end up forming a connection, which can spark in many different ways, create many different ripples.
I think that the concept of it is fine. It comes down to the individual application. So how much are you forcing those animals into a sort of performance type role? Because this is something that I have questioned within myself and juggled with myself many times over the years, just on the animal acting side of things, you know.
Yeah.
And another reason why I'm wholly committed to reward-based training, because it's very important to me that this is something that the animals voluntarily take part in. It's also very important to me that their lives outside of that are wholly enriched. It's a reason why it's very important to me. They live family lives here, that they have a lot of space to relax. So they're not forced to come and do things with me because I'm their only social contact. They're not forced to do anything with me because I'm their only source of stimulation. What I provide is an addition to all the other good things that go on in their life. And I think whenever you look at these projects and these programs, I've seen some of them that are absolutely atrocious. You know, the animal is really just a sideshow. And their own needs are utterly disrespected. So I think you can't judge the concept. You have to judge the individual application in these kind of situations. So I always say to anybody, if in doubt, come and see us. Come and have a look and see for yourself. And I remember we had one lady, she came on a group experience. And I remember she was a little bit cold at the beginning. And she said at the end that she was quite a strong animal rights activist. And she came along with her friends, fully prepared to dislike us and to sort of take a little bit of report and note-taking to go and talk to some of her other activist friends. And she left completely changed about what we were doing and our mission and the value of the work that we were doing, and very impressed by the quality of life of the animals here. And this is what everybody says, you know, that you can see instantly how sort of relaxed and chilled and happy they are, and very content, and again, just the free will that they have, so that, you know, people will come for a visit, and the space that they're in with the animals is very large. And we'll say, if they come over and want to say hi, fine. If they don't, they don't, and that is absolutely fine. And nobody's putting any pressure on anybody to do anything that they don't want to. You're visiting here for their enrichment, really, not the other way around.
Yeah, I love that, and I agree with you completely. It's all about that individual program, and you have to be open to actually collecting the data and looking at before you make a judgment and going, wait, there's going to be good ones and bad ones. And I think I love what you say about being open to people visiting and being able to see that. And you remind me of a friend of mine who worked with beluga whales for many years, like over 20 years, and she was a senior like carer of them, a trainer, carer. And I remember being at dinner with her once, and she was like, well, I see my job as going to work, and my job is, my responsibility is, how can I entertain the animals? How can I look after them? What can I give them? And I was like, that's so amazing that even after 20 years of doing this day to day, it hasn't become that, okay, I go in and I just have to do this or put a show on or do this. My job is actually, even before the show or even before any kind of other performance, is how do I meet your needs? How do I entertain you, as opposed to you entertain me? And I love that. And you reminded me of that too. So a shout out to Jessica. If you're watching, she's an amazing trainer, and she's in the States at the moment. I thought it would be a good time to maybe transition to something that someone has asked a question about. I also have a short video clip to introduce the topic. So maybe I introduce the question first, if that's okay.
Go for it.
So, Nat. So the question is, what was the incident? Just watch the trailer, and I can't wait to find out more. Let me share a short clip, and then we'll come back to Natalie and find out what is this scandalous incident about, and we want her to spill the tea.
The incident.
And what is the incident, I hear you ask? Well, we asked if Mr. Bond had a significant other.
Only his affair with Missy.
Wow. So, are we going to find out what this is all about?
Well, Nick, am I allowed to give spoilers for the show? Should we make people watch the show?
People really should, but maybe a small hint about who the trio is, or maybe a bit about
well,
Winston.
Let's just say, we always try to practice here, you know, making sure that everybody stays where they should be and that everything goes in the right and present order. But as anybody knows who's worked with animals any length of time, it doesn't always go 100% to plan. And this was one of those rare occasions when it didn't exactly go to plan. And I think the safest thing for me to say, just to give people some hints, is that James Bond lives up to his name in more ways than one. So he's the action man and the adventurer. He does all his own stunt work. But combined with that, undoubtedly, he's a little bit of a ladies' man and a rogue. And this was one of those incidents where that side of his personality came to the forefront. So I think, without giving away too many spoilers, I'll leave it at that.
Okay, so I think that is amazing in terms of, I encourage you to wholly check out this clip. It's about 8 to 9 minutes, the full video of the episode, and it's just full of engaging information. You will not be bored, and I think you will be wholly entertained, educated, and just love how Natalie shares this information. As you can see from our talk today, she is amazing in terms of experience and knowledge, her way of sharing information. And so I highly recommend going and checking out this episode on Wolfdogs. And if you want, there's a QR code in the corner, that you can scan, that will take you to the video, or at the end you can visit WotDogTV on YouTube, find the episode on Wolfdogs, watch the episode, and if you like it, as part of a positive reinforcement behavior community, please feel free to give feedback in the comments in terms of sharing what you liked about it or your thoughts, and also even just hitting the thumbs up. As we said, one of the passions of WotDogTV is to make information freely available to as many people as possible, and you can support us in doing that by even just leaving a comment and hitting the thumbs up box, the subscribe, the bell. Any of those things will really make a difference. So we encourage you to do that as well. And Nick, do you have any other questions for Natalie before we finish off?
Wrap things up. Do you know what? I don't. Everything is answered. Other than to say thank you so much once again, Natalie. Thank you for allowing us and inviting us into your home, into your pack, introducing us to your amazing animals. It was a great experience to film them and to meet you, and also share your personal insights and your journey about your life story and how your pack and the dogs and your animals have positively impacted your life, because it's meant for a really inspiring film.
Well, thank you very much for having me there. I wish you could have seen me for more of it, but I'm sure you sort of gathered that however much I might be an expert with Wolfdogs, I am not an expert with technology. So I'm afraid, consider yourself lucky that you got my voice, I think, for the second half there. But honestly, you're most welcome. It's been absolutely wonderful to have a chat with you guys. And I'm really looking forward to welcoming you both here for another visit.
I can't wait, and I'm truly grateful for you to spend this time with us and really be generous with your time as well and sharing so much information, Natalie. I'm just so grateful, and I look forward to meeting you in real life and Mr. Bond and all his other friends. So can't wait for that. Thank you so much for coming, Natalie. And so we're going to say bye to you for now and look forward to meeting you in person very soon.
Fantastic. Bye-bye.
Bye, Natalie.
Thank you. Thank you, Chirag.
I have a question for you. Made me smile when it came up and someone posted the question. And while we're rounding up, if anyone does still have, and I think Natalie's still here in the background, so if anyone does have questions that you want to ask, please do feel free to pop them back in the chat box. We'll try and answer them in the last few minutes. But I have a question I want to ask Nick. So let me just find the question here for a second. Maybe Nick can entertain us with some karaoke in the meantime. Where did it go? So the question was, so people are asking for more episodes and asking about will there be, what kind of episodes are coming out? And then there's a very specific question about, will there be any more documentaries on especially topics like wolf dogs?
Wolfdogs.
I'm sorry, not Wolfdogs, Irish Wolfhounds.
Well, yeah. In Natalie's film on her lovely Wolfdogs, The Secret Life of Wolfdogs, there is a little Easter egg about the next film, which is up and coming, and that's due out very soon, a bit longer than her film, and we're really excited about that. And as you said, yeah, that's on Irish Wolfhounds.
I would keep your eyes out for this. I've seen some of the production so far, and just wow, it's a TV documentary essentially, like the quality of it and the information in it. So if you're interested, keep an eye out, because Irish Wolfhounds is coming up and it is spectacular. We also have some other things on the channel as well, and we have some other videos coming up quite soon. So do you want to just mention a little bit about those?
Yeah, that's we ventured out recently with yourself, Chirag, and we met Jasper and Benji in the park, and we've got some behavior and training videos coming out on tomorrow actually, which is really exciting. Sharing your approach and your insights, which yeah, we're really excited about sharing on the channel. Because for me, as coming from someone who doesn't know about behavior and training, you know, I'm a layperson, and I look at it and you don't really appreciate the methods used. When you're looking on YouTube, you see techniques applied and they seem to work instantly. And then when you start to investigate those techniques, sometimes I've recognized that some of those methods might not be in the best interest for the animals. And so discovering your behavior and training and the work that we're sharing is really exciting, because it's certainly in line with a positive mindset for the dogs and for all animals.
Cool, thank you. And so keep an eye out on those, and go and check out WotDogTV. I put the QR code there, or just go to YouTube, type in WotDogTV, and look at all the videos we already have. So a series on puppy training out with Rio, Federica, and myself, and Nick, and we've basically put together some really cool information about poo, dog poo, and puppy biting, and all these different topics. So go check them out, and we look forward to seeing you at the next behind the scenes with WotDog. So keep an eye out. We'll let you know when that's happening. And thank you so much for joining us today, and for your interaction too, and posting your comments and sharing with us what you thought. If you like, please feel free to comment and on YouTube and on Facebook, and just let us know what you thought of this, any questions, any thoughts, any take homes, and we love to see them and read them as well. So thank you very much. Any final words, Nick?
No, other than thank you very much for joining.
Cool. Bye everyone.
Thank you. Thanks, Jared.